I'm Scott Stork at Coon Rapids High School, and what we're going to do today is do a short demo on how to use our cutter here at the high school. We currently have students running offset press making memo pads. And once the memo pads are created, the first thing you're going to do is cut the memo pads down. First thing you're going to need to do is in the cabinet behind me, you're going to grab some tag board. You're going to put it on the back side of your memo pads so you add firmness to your stack. The next thing you want to do is make sure your paper is jogged or squared. For the simple reason, if your paper is not jogged or squared and the paper is all over the place, when you cut straight down on the paper stack, you're going to cut in the middle of your memo pads, which you don't want to do. So squaring up the memo pads is a huge part. Now, memo pads are set up as 4x5 memo pads, and there's 4 on a sheet of paper. And so if we're going to cut our page in half of 11 inches, that's 5.5, and the width is 8.5. So if we're going to cut our sheet of paper in half at 8.5, it's going to be 4.25 is the size of our dimensions, our memo pads. Now, we have a ruler right here on the table, and you're going to use this to determine where you're going to do your cut by. And so the first thing you want to do on this is make sure your paper stack is rested up against the side of this plate here in the press and in the back. So if we move this forward, paper stack is squared up, but if I move it back, my paper stack now is not resting on the back plate. So moving it forward, you don't need to have your hand on it. If I move it back, you want to have your hand going against it so it stays nice and square. The first thing is the safety feature on this. Only one person is running this machine at a time. If I were to try to do cut this memo pad down and I have this on, I cannot bring the blade down with one hand. If I try the other side, the blade's not going to come down. Both hands have to be on the cut button at the same time. So if someone is watching, they have to be stand off to the side, then it's safe. We have 3 hands on this table, the machine is not safe at all. So we're going to set our paper stack up at 5.5. So I got the end of the paper stack at 5.5. I'm going to turn the machine on. I'm going to bring the blade down to get an idea where my cut's going to be. So the cut looks good. So now I'm going to press back up on the brake pad down on the bottom here, and that brings the blade up. So the safety feature again is both hands have to be on the cut button at the same time. So I'm going to press the 2 cut buttons, and then this blade here is going to come down and cut the sheet of paper. I'm going to turn the machine off. Now when I grab my memo pads from under here, you want the machine off when you grab anything. We're going to jog our paper again. We talked a few minutes that half of 8.5 is 4.25, so you're going to bring your paper stack to 4.25 inches. And what you can do is cut both pads down at the same time. So we're going to turn the machine on. Bring this down, and you're seeing that's going to cut the memo pads in quarters. So I'll bring the blade back up. Both hands on the cut button at the same time. We turn it off. Now we have our memo pads cut. We have our memo pads cut. Now we're in our padding station. Our padding station is located in our offset press room, and we pad back along this area. Now, we have pink padding compound and white. Here's the pink. Now, for your assignments, you can use whatever color you want. Now, when you're going to pad your memo pads, the most important thing on your memo pads is to make sure whatever side you're going to pad on, it's nice and straight and squared up. So if you have sheets going all over the place, the padding compound is not going to mold or secure to it, and you're going to have sheets falling off. Now we also have a padding station. So if you're going to use this padding station, you're going to loosen it up on the outside. And then this table comes up. So if I'm going to pad in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a board here, have it resting over. You want to make sure your pads are the same height. If I do two pads like this, and then one like this, the weight's not going to be evenly distributed and you're not going to have good seals. So it's always important that you have your pads at the equal thickness. So I'm going to square it up. I'm going to grab this plate back. And when you apply the padding compound on, you can use a putty knife or your finger. The padding compound is water soluble, so just grab a little bit. Just get a good bead going across. You let it sit towards the end of the hour, put another bead on there so you have a good bead going across. If that station is full, we also have blocks that you can use. So what you can do is you can lay them down. And then you can pad like this. Or we have jigs that were made a few years ago. You can lay one down. Then you pad it. Then you can lay another one down. And then pad it. And then you'll put the weight on top. So you have a nice tight seal going across. After our memo pads are padded, now what I want you to do before you get it graded, I want you to trim the sides up so it's nice and straight. And hopefully your design is centered. Here's the existing design. You'll notice that the lines were, when the person printed this, it was off on the side. So I'm going to trim it up a little bit so it's nice and smooth. So what first thing you want to do is rest this up against an edge, the back edge and side. And we're going to bring the blade down so you get a feel of where the cut's going to be. I'm going to press on the pad down on the bottom of the machine so it lifts the blade up. Both hands on the cut button at the same time. Turn it off. I'm going to grab my memo pad. And now I have a nice smooth edge. I'm going to do the same on the other side. I'm going to bring that forward a little bit. Both hands on the cut button. Turn the machine off. I want to trim the bottom of the memo pad. So notice I'm pressing my hand on the memo pad as I'm moving it backwards. Both hands on the cut button. And now we have a nice smooth memo pad, and now you're ready to get it graded. The last thing you want to do, after you get it graded, you're going to take a picture of your memo pad, you're going to put it on your PowerPoint, and I also want a picture of your press sheet before you cut it down. So again, picture of the memo pad when it's complete and a press sheet before you cut it all down. That goes on one slide in your PowerPoint.